Hey, everybody, this is Tim Shaw. You're at the Black Cat Lounge where just the elite meet. Well, what else? We meet next to the dumpster transfer station. Follow your nose, you'll find the Black Cat Lounge. Hey, it's Tuesday. So glad that you guys are with us. It's so just comforting that everybody, just kind of likes to come together. And it's hard to believe. I keep thinking to myself, we resurrected the Black Cat Lounge over a year ago, a year and a half ago, actually. And we're still going, and we're still getting so many people that are, that are tuning in, and they're watching all of our podcasts, and they're making sure that everything is cool. And I thank you enough. You guys humble me. It's so great that you do that. Now, I write for a living. As I spoke earlier, I did some filming in New Jersey for Portals of Hell. It was an interesting experience. It was a madcap experience, to say the least. I drove in, drove out next day, but I got a chance to hang out with my good friend Bruce Tango, Dave Tango's dad from what else? Ghost Hunters. So it was so great to be able to see him and just chew the fat. The last time we were together, we were at an event in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, and it's going back a couple of years. And he's just a prince of a guy. So to be able to go and hang out with him. And it was great because I gave him a call and he goes, Pally, I'm telling you, you're 15 minutes away from where I am. I said, I'll see you in the morning. So off we went and we spent some time. So it was really great to hang out with him. Anybody that has not seen, I'm going to raise this up a little bit. Beyond Van Gogh, go see it. It's an amazing, amazing exhibit. And in the movie, The Big Chill, there is a part where I think William Hurt, now I'm showing my age, The Big Chill, where he says, sometimes art must flow over you, must flow over the top of you. And this is one of those experiences that definitely does. So it's like $40 a ticket. It's some of the greatest entertainment you'll ever see. Really, it's mind blowing. And and I've always liked Van Gogh. I've always liked the Impressionists, but to actually see this in this scope, in the scale, was mind blowing. Now, I got to bring on our guest because I've got like 1,001 questions, and first of all, I have to tell you that you guys know I've worked with a couple different people over the years, networks and that sort of stuff. And I got to tell you that working with this gentleman was probably the most focused. And I mean, it was a long night, but the shoot was amazing. It was truly amazing. His focus is like crazy. I learned so much from him. And I mean, I'm a nerd. I love studio work and stuff, but to see him and Jamie go and work together as a team, and how they manipulated apertures, which like blew my mind. His lighting is spectacular. I mean, he is so anal about lighting. It's great. I mean, to be able to see him in action, I mean, yeah, okay. I'm a fanboy. I've seen his work and stuff, but to see him actually be that focused and work to set up a scene and get it just right was just like so inspiring to me. I have trouble setting up my, when we do not for profits, it's like, okay, start, end, that's what we do. And to see him, it was unbelievable. And you know what? To work with him was a high point. It really was a high point because he is the consummate professional. So I want to just, I mean, I did a little bio on him, but I'm not going to go deep into it because my God, I mean, there's just so much to talk about. First off, he's a rapper. I did not, I mean, I was told that before, but I didn't know he charted like over 200 times. That's like blows my mind. That's amazing. That's just amazing. But not only is he doing that, but he's so diverse. We're going to talk about how he kind of got into the paranormal and then how he actually got into filming the paranormal and being able to go and, well, first of all, the project that I was working with him on is one of his series, his hit series. It's on Amazon Prime, Haunted Saginaw, which is crazy. And I started looking into a little bit more of the hauntings in Saginaw, which That place is like amazing. We're going to talk about that. But you guys will probably know him from being the host, investigator, bon vivant of Haunted in the Heartland, which out of all the Ed Gein projects that I've watched, his is the only one that I thought was worthwhile. And I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, I like seeing some of the flat stuff, the history stuff, but as for a paranormal, doc, it was amazing. So you know what? I don't want to go and waste everybody's time hearing me just pontificate like, the person I am. Let's bring on the amazing Steve Shippy. Steve, thank you so much for coming on to the Black Cat Lounge. Thank you so much for taking the time. And thank you so much for being a last minute guest. I never thought in a million years you would say yes tonight. You know what? I was just like, when you wrote back and said, let's do the show, dude, I had a happy dance. It was even more, it was more happier than when you said, okay, I think it was at 6 a.m. on the USS that said, cut. We're done for tonight. I had a happy dance there, but this one was right up there. Thank you so much for being on.
Hey, thanks for having me on here.
You know what? I was just shocked at how diverse your background is and how diverse all of your experiences are. I love every single thing of it. I'm sort of one of these guys that studied Nietzschean philosophy, the Uberman, the whole thing. And I have to tell you, you're like a Renaissance guy. You're like the Uberman because you have so much cred to you. Your resume is unbelievable. And you just keep on creating. You have your content. You don't stop. And I give you so much credit for that. So first off, a lot of people won't realize this, but Steve's show name, his rapper name, is Prozac. So, but let's just start off with that because as soon as I saw Prozac, my eyes opened up and said, "Oh, okay, I like that myself." But where did you ever come up with that name, Steve?
Well, it was kind of basically a moniker that was given to me after a while. A lot of my lyrical content was about, just kind of the struggles of life and getting through life and that type of thing. And eventually, at some point, somebody was like, kind of interjected, it's like the Prozac of hip hop, and then that kind of stuck. And then ultimately I started getting labeled by the press as the Hitchcock of hip hop, and then that stuck. And then it just kind of, kind of went from there.
Now, I love backstories. I really do. And we got a chance to talk a little bit because, you were all business and you had a lot of footage to shoot that night that we worked together. And I really want to know about your background. First off, I want to ask you, why do you think that you hit a chord with your music? Let's just work with that for a couple seconds before we go into the paranormal.
Sure.
What was it that people really resonated with?
I think it was, if I had to try to summarize that, I think really it was just touching on a lot of the subjects of life that aren't glamorous, so to speak, just kind of talking about, what we go through in life, some kind of deeper things, sometimes darker things. And, it's needless to say that's not common in hip hop, so to speak, but at the same time, there was definitely an audience that it resonated with. And it's just kind of talking about reality. What we all go through as people, rather sometimes it may be depression or certain things or certain thoughts and more of a, I guess, more poetry and symbolism versus just kind of artificial content.
Awesome. That's just, this is why I think I was so impressed with you the first time I met you in person was the fact that you are a real person. And and I felt so comfortable working with you. And I love the fact that, see, you're a lot like me. I like trying to be like the everyday guy. I just want to be that guy that people come up to, say hi, and, maybe they like my work, maybe they don't, but it doesn't matter. It's just the fact that they respect you from being in that your boots on the ground instead of, being a diva, which neither one of us are. Although I have to say that your goatee is looking very good tonight, Steve. I'll just tell you that. But your background, when I started delving into your bio, it started making a lot of sense. So I want to ask you to share with everybody what was it that happened to you that really opened your eyes and started to draw you slowly into, like, I'll just say the paranormal, for lack of a better term.
Right. Well, I grew up in a house that was very haunted. We dealt with a lot of things in that home. So that was a huge eye opener for me right at the beginning, because, when that happens to you, I always kind of say you can't unsee what you've seen. So it starts to challenge your belief system, everything that you think, everything that you thought. And it's kind of a crazy moment, when you're experiencing these things that should not be happening, and people around you, your family, are trying to say, okay, it must be this, it must be that. But then there's that moment when everybody, including your parents, have to now say, okay, yes, this is happening. It's that shock and awe realization that there are things out there like this that nobody can explain or quite understand. And I also had and Tim, you and I had a little conversation about this at the Edson, that I did have a family member that was pretty prominent in the paranormal community as well. And so basically growing up with her, her information, her guidance, her experience, her knowledge, it just kind of all culminated that way, I guess.
No, I have to tell you that I was impressed, because a lot of times I've had a lot of negative experiences with some of the production companies that I've worked with. And it was so great to be able to work with somebody that really knew what was going on, but also had that deep sense of wonderment with it. And that was the first thing, I think, that once we started actually working, I could just tell that you were like not just two-dimensional. You were a three-dimensional person when it came to this. You were one of these people that when I said something, you understood it, which like blew my mind right away. You could relate it somewhere to something, to an experience in your life. With that was like worth every penny that you paid for that dinner. I'm gonna tell you that. Which, by the way, thank you so much. You didn't have to do that. It was so nice that you did that.
For
But
sure.
it was amazing. It was amazing, Steve. Now I want to ask you. Okay, we have the paranormal. We have Steve that had this experience. What brought you into recording it, to making videos of it? Because now, when you started, I will tell you that there were some things on, let's say, YouTube that people were putting out there, and it wasn't that good. It really wasn't. It was like a bunch of people running around and with IR lights and and not really making a story out of it.
Right.
But your early pieces were never like that. They were always so professionally done. Why did you decide that you wanted to take the genre and bring it up a couple notches, to bring it up to something that is creative and something that people could really enjoy watching?
Well, we were investigating for many, many years. And for the longest time, when I'd be on tour, because I spent probably half of my adult life on the road, and we would stop at world famous haunted places, and I would take some of the other performers or sound crew with us, and we'd always have our cameras and video cameras, and and I had been doing a lot of filming by that point, shooting music videos for myself, for other people. And then finally one day, an individual that I knew said, well, why aren't you filming these investigations professionally and putting it out there? And I was like, well, I'm not really sure that my music fan base and the paranormal, I don't know that really bridges, so to speak, and they said, well, how do you know if you don't try? And I said, well, you got a good point, and so we had an investigation coming up, and I thought, okay, well, let's just try it. Let's go into this with a documentary frame of mind and just kind of see what happens. So we did that, Haunting on Hamilton Street 1. We filmed the documentary, and it's kind of an interesting story because when it was accomplished, I wanted to premiere it in Saginaw. So we went to a theater, and I think maybe 500 seats. And they said, oh, no, we're not interested. Nobody's going to come see that. I said, okay. Then we went to another theater, smaller theater, much smaller, couple hundred seats. And they were very happy to have us. But I kind of thought, well, I mean, there's about, 30, 40 of us and our friends and families. So we need something bigger. Then we went to the biggest theater in town, the Temple Theater. And they said, well, we have 2,000 seats. You're definitely way over your head here. And anyway, long story short, we made a crazy decision that not only were we going to go with the larger theater, but we wanted 2 nights, to which they looked at us like we were completely insane. And maybe we were. And we premiered it and we sold out both nights to the tune of 4,000 people. And I was very shocked. And I was also shocked to find out that the majority of the people that attended weren't fans of my music per se. And then I realized that there was definitely a need for paranormal investigation and documentary format, at least in my opinion, longer, more thorough type investigations as opposed to a television format.
Let me ask you this, and this is something that, again, just being a guy that hangs out in studios and marvels at what somebody like you do, what you do out there in the field. Did you ever have any previous training outside of, I mean, you were doing your own music and videos for other people. Yeah. Did you train like did you go to a school, film school, or is this just something that you picked up and you decided that it was just like an intrinsic love that you had to do it?
Yeah, it was all self-taught, basically. I've never gone to film school or anything like that. And, and it's still a work in progress, I mean, if I think anybody that's in any type of industry, if you think you are the master or you have mastered something, you're crazy, because, every time I do another documentary, I'm learning even more about cameras and lighting and all these different things, because, as when you're creating a documentary, there is so much more to it, obviously, than just investigating the paranormal. That of course is the center of what it's all about, but there's so much to it, as you well know, there's just thousands of hours go into it.
You know what? I was so impressed that you spent so much time on board the Edson, that you could, and interviewed so many people. Because and LaFave and Bill Randall, I mean, I'm always in contact with them, and they would and Annie would be going back to the ship tonight. Going back tonight. Yeah. And it's amazing, because it's beyond, I think it's beyond the thrill ride of what it is. You like to be able to go and show it as an art form. To me, what you're doing is an art form. It's not, so many people are nowadays, they just take their camera or they go whatever, and they shoot 6 hours and they, rough edit it together and put it on YouTube. Dude, your stuff is is true art. It flows. I mean, it doesn't just happen to have a beginning, middle, and ending. Yeah. It has all your fades and everything. There's no end. There's nothing that's like open-ended. Everything is put into a nice box, an enjoyable box for you to understand and read and view. And to me, that's the mark of a true master. And you really are. You really are. I want to just ask you something about Saginaw.
Sure.
And again, when I was doing my bios and stuff, I had no idea that Saginaw had that many hauntings. I thought, I live close to Buffalo, New York, here in Western New York, and we have a basket full of stuff. You guys are incredibly haunted. I mean, I was shocked at it. I kept finding one thing after another, after another, after another. You had done certain highlights, but my God, there's still so much more. Why is Saginaw so haunted?
Well, there's a lot of different theories behind that. I mean, it was a very lawless place at one time, back in the 1800s. It's been stated in a few books that there were more murders and more violence per capita than the Wild West at certain points during the lumber era. Saginaw has experienced a lot of tragedy, a lot of triumph. At one point, it was the wealthiest city in America for quite a long time. In fact, you can kind of see it with our The Castle Museum is what we call it now. It was the post office at one point. These giant, opulent, extremely extravagant buildings. So you can see the remnants of all that old money. But unfortunately, when all the lumber ran out, it hit hard times, and then it kind of boomed again with the automotive. So it's always had these influxes of greatness and tragedy. And of course, now it's known, unfortunately, to be a very violent city, as it was once in the past. At the same time, to me, it's a wonderful place. It's a beautiful place. I still live here. I could live pretty much wherever, like we all could pack up and move, but I love Saginaw dearly. So it's a multifaceted, incredible place, for many different reasons. But I do think that that's why there is, so much energy here and so many different hauntings. And like you said, Tim, it's wild because a lot of people will say, well, you've done so many films in Saginaw.
Mhm.
What's left to do? I mean, my inbox is just flooded every month with more locations around here. And even to the point now where we get leads from local, officers will tip us to things and say, hey, we were called out. This isn't our wheelhouse. We think it's yours, or paramedics, or just people at random. We get flooded with all kinds of different leads. So it's a very interesting place.
I love the fact that you get such raw leads. People don't realize how important that is, especially somebody like yourself who is out there trying to go. And let's face it, like you said, Saginaw may be hitting some hard times now,
Right.
but as in all the lake cities, they all revitalize eventually. And I think what you're doing actually is helping out with that revitalization. And people, and we talked about this too on the ship. For whatever reason, people in the Great Lakes have this innate, I guess, thing to go and like knock stuff down and build new stuff up. And they destroy the mythology and the beauty of our area. And once that mythology is gone, and ghosts, legends, and all this, that's all part of the mythology. That's why I think that you're so important with what you do, is because you actually go and you care. And if you can capture just so many legends, they're not lost. They're never lost then to another generation. And that, to me, whether it's paranormal, whether it's whatever, is so important with what you're up to. Now, we're gonna go back to the Edson, because you really let me work. Oh, I see that.
Yeah.
I have mine here.
The
As a matter of
overnight
fact,
crew. Yeah.
mine is on the other side here. I never thought in a million years you were going to ever let me. I don't know if I can take the cat out of the bag and just put a teaser out there. Could I just do a little teaser?
Yeah.
This guy let me do like a little mini seance. And I never thought in a million years he would let me do it, because I thought, well, he's going to want impressions. He's going to want this or that. And I'm not going to go heavily into it, but Annie LaFave and our good buddy Bill Randall, they experienced something that they didn't pay for. Believe me, I think that I think both of them had to go and change their underwear after it, and it was so amazing that you would do that. And we got a chance to work with the Ouija board that you brought, and the table did move, which was neat.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was to me, it was such an honor for you to. I don't care if all that ends up on the cutting room floor. It was just the experience of doing it on board the ship was well worth it. So thank you so very, very much, Steve.
Yeah, it was fascinating to me. I mean, we while I was there interviewing so many people, your name would come up quite a bit because of the experience that you had prior.
Mm-hmm.
And so and of course, put us together and everything. And so the few days before you had come out here, I was researching you heavily, listening to all your podcasts, reading everything, watching everything, and I was very fascinated by different things that you talk about and do. So I just I just wanted you to come out and do what you do. you know, and that's, and man, I'll tell you, not to say too much, but that was exhilarating. You know, things happened that I haven't experienced before, and it was definitely wild. You know,
Yeah, it really was, and I'll never forget going. We ended, and I'm like, oh crap, nothing happened. I think I asked somebody to get a touch, and then and Bill's told us what happened. I was like, oh, sometimes this stuff does work, And
oh, it works,
but
man.
it was just an amazing time. It was just an amazing time, and what I loved about the fact was that you actually went to a spot that needed, some help. I mean, they're short on volunteers.
Yeah,
Anything of that nature, any location of that nature is always hurting for available cash. Keep it up and running. And I think that what you've done once you're complete with it, and it, people see it on Amazon and Amazon Prime and everything, I think that they're going to get a big influx of money. And that's a thank you to you, because so many people in this business only think about themselves. What can this do for me? And I got the impression that's not you. I mean, you're working hard. Yeah. You're doing this, for those intrinsic reasons. You're pulling them out of yourself, to make everything look so phenomenal. Because I'm telling you, Steve, I've never seen a light guy do as much work as you did, making sure everything was just lit perfectly. And at the bottom, at the end of the day, you're the guy that when this gets premiered and this gets put out there, people are going to stop and say, wow, we did not know that. And people from all over the country will see that and know what's going on a place like that. So
yeah, and
on the USS Hudson.
And it's such a remarkable place. I mean, Anne, we've known Anne for a long time. She's always supported us. She's always attended our premieres, and we couldn't have done it without her, flat out. Bill, of course, too, played a huge role in that, but Anne would be there every single night that we were there, which I think was over 30, 40 nights.
Right.
And she would be there from, an hour before we got there, and sometimes would leave even after we left there. That's how much work she did. And, she cares about the ship immensely, and she recognized, what we could bring to the table as far as exposure and letting people know about it. But I'll tell you one thing, and I told Ann this right away. I mean, when she says it's haunted and there's activity, I don't doubt it. I know Ann well enough to know that if she says that, you can take it to the bank. But what I did not expect was for it to be as active as it was. Once I got my first taste of the Edson, as far as the surreal things that would happen, I was hooked. We just ramped it right through the roof. At that point, I was bringing out more crew and drones and more nights and trying to get into every part of the ship, because you just never know what would happen. You'd see a full body apparition, footsteps, doors opening and closing on their own, things moving right in front of you. And then, of course, the experience with you, which was, that was next level. So
thank you. You know what? I love it when a plan comes together.
Yeah.
And it did. But I'll be honest with you, I didn't have any doubts, because of the fact that of my very first initial experience, which I'll just put the teaser out. When I first was on the Edson a couple of years ago, I saw an apparition. I mean, and I can count on really one hand all the apparitions I've ever seen in my life. And I've been doing this since a kid. I mean, a true apparition. And it just blew my mind. And when we started working, and I will tell you that I don't think my hearing has ever come back to what it was, because at one point, and again, this is a teaser, at one point when I was there, anything that had a buzzer went off at the same time.
Yeah.
And it was just, and I mean, we're talking not just in one room, we're talking in different holds, and we're talking behind us, in front of us, the side of us. Steve was sitting across from me. It was like, oh my God. And, and then it would just stop. And I mean, our ears were still ringing from it. So it was it was an amazing, it was just an amazing experience. So thank you so much, Steve, from the bottom of my heart for
sure.
bringing me on. I mean, you didn't really know me from Adam and Annie, of course. I mean, I pay her $2, $3 every time I see her to push me in Michigan.
She does good.
She does good. Now, let me ask you this. Saginaw is great, but now I knew you from The Haunting in the Heartland. And of course, my favorite was the Ed Gein episode. It blew my mind. It absolutely blew my mind. And, and of course, I mean, we talked about it a little bit, but I was trying to I didn't want to bring it up. I didn't know how you felt because I knew you were busy and I had like 1,001 questions when we were on the ship and I didn't want to go and monopolize your time with it. But I got to tell you, and this is, again, I'm not going to lie about it. This episode that you did on Ed Gein, I've watched everything. I'm a serial killer type of guy, well, not type of guy. I don't want to. You won't bring me in anymore for anything.
I knew something was different.
Yeah, well, but I just was fascinated by the story of Ed Gein only not because of what he did, but because of his influence on modern culture. Yeah. Growing up as a kid growing up, coming from the atomic age, all the movies, everybody, the atomic bomb goes and, mutates a Komodo dragon and it becomes Godzilla, that whole thing.
Yeah.
But going into like Hitchcock's Psycho, I mean, and that, I was kind of like, what is that all about? And then learning more, and we start seeing Myers, and we're starting to see all this other stuff in the Leatherface, and how it influenced our modern society today. You did an outstanding job because I know people that have been out following what they call, and you're right, the people don't like when people are out, outsiders are out there, want to ask and talk about Ed Gein at all. No. They get nasty. Yeah. A friend of mine was out there and he said the same thing. He says, hey, they're trying, there's like 3 people in the whole town that think it's the coolest thing since sliced bread, and they'll talk to you. He goes, but everybody else shuts you right down. Every little store, gas station, you're looking for where the farm was, they won't tell you. Yep. But it was amazing that you actually brought a humanity to him where he was no longer this. Well, he was, of course he was a psychopath, but you brought the real him out with what you did. Well, how hard was it to go and kind of scrape away all the legends and all the expectations of Ed Gein and actually getting down and getting into the nitty-gritty of who he was, because you touched upon so many aspects that I never even thought of.
Well, it was pretty difficult. It's hard to look past Ed Gein the monster, Leatherface, Silence of the Lambs, Norman Bates, that it's hard to get past the shock of what he did and the, the infamy around him. But at the end of the day, he was a human being. At one point, he was a child. He was an innocent at one point. What happened? What went wrong? How did this person become this, infamous, horrific individual? And no matter what, I felt it was important that we had to examine that because, of course, his upbringing and his childhood and so many different things did play a factor, ultimately, as what we know today as the monster Ed Gein. So it was, it was important to be told because it's part of the story.
Now, when you have to, when you go before the network and you have to pitch this idea, I've got to ask you, how hard was it to pitch it? Because of the fact that it's like the Cecil Hotel. Everybody has done something on the Cecil Hotel. How hard was it to go and pitch an Ed Gein storyline?
I think anytime that you want to investigate something is treacherous, I guess you could say, as Ed Gein, in that story, it's, there could be some apprehension there, but I think that at the end of the day, there's the knowledge that it's going to be done, correctly.
Hmm.
And at the same time too, it's, it's kind of a dangerous case to investigate for a lot of different reasons, for I guess, for paranormal reasons, and then also, as you had said, not everybody's thrilled to have filmmakers and a film crew come out and start turning over rocks to find out more information or possibly new information. But the people of Plainfield, there were some and don't get me wrong, I don't feel personally that, hey, if you didn't want to talk to me, you're not a good person by any means. But there were a good amount of people that off the record would give us some very good information, and and lead us to different places to go explore and to find out more and more and more. So our time there was it was very intense, I guess is the best way to put it, because it was a journey. Of course we went there with a certain, with certain things in mind, certain places we were going to go, and archives we were going to look through. But it quickly became a journey of its own once we were out there, boots on the ground, and the path just kind of continued to change, and you just had to kind of roll with it, not really knowing what was going to happen next.
Working with Cindy, I got a chance finally to meet Cindy Kaza. She's what a sweetheart she is, and I know her. She had raised money for the Fox family foundation. They have the actual foundations of the cottage are still there, and they have they're being protected by a building over the top of them, and she helped raise money to really kind of put a new roof on. And so I went to thank her for it, and I have to tell you that she gets intense.
Yeah,
I was like, whoa. I had just come off off the stage in a panel, and she was kind of, her and Dave and Shane were off there, and they were going to go up and talk. And she was just like so focused on something. I was like, hey, Cindy, how are you? And she kind of jumped. She goes, oh, Tim, how are you? And then bang, right back into it.
Yeah.
How was it to work with her? Because I as someone who does automatic writing, I do it in a different way, of course. But as somebody who does automatic writing, I find it fascinating how her brain works. And then she, it's almost as if her brain is working faster than what her hand can work.
Yeah.
And when you were asking for specific facts, she was bringing them through, which can be scary. What was your reaction when you kind of sat there and went, wait a minute, wow. I don't know if you had ever worked with somebody like her before, but it can be a little disheartening. It can be a little crazy.
Right.
Because she is so intensive. What was it like to work with her?
I definitely have worked with mediums throughout, my entire career. But Cindy, as you said, she has an intensity to her. And I feel like the majority of the time she's tuned in, to the point where you could be having a conversation with her, even when you're not investigating, and you can kind of see that she's kind of looking off and she's kind of receiving that information all the time. Her accuracy is phenomenal. Her energy is through the roof. Her dedication to a case is excellent. So me personally, I enjoy working with her quite a bit. And Cindy and I have we've done a lot of work recently as well. We've worked
Awesome.
quite a bit. So hopefully everybody will get a chance to see what that is and where we've gone. But she's intense. There's just no other way to put it.
No,
she's intense. You're intense too. I got to say that for the record. You're one of the most intense people that I've worked with. If you and Cindy got in the same room at the same time, at the same case, there would be like a volcano explosion or something. But I really mean that. I've told everybody since I've worked with you, the intensity is just like, wow.
Thank you so much. I take that as high praise coming from you, because you're a guy that really has walked that path. So that's great. Question for me. It's coming from me. Bucket list. Where's a place that you have never been, but whether you want to go and investigate it, to film it, or just go there to investigate it, where would it be?
Oh man, that's a difficult one.
That's why I get paid big bucks, Steve. You know that.
Yeah. That really is a difficult one for me, because there's just so many different places. Typically of course, I've been asked that question before, and it kind of always is my honest answer is the case to me that I want to investigate the most is the one that I don't know about yet, the one that nobody knows about yet. There's so many, well, not so many, but there are still diamonds in the rough out there of just incredible cases that nobody really knows about. For instance, a case, shockingly enough, 20 miles away from here, has become one of the biggest cases I've ever worked on. And you would think, with all the contacts I have here and how many people we know, and kind of being the epicenter of paranormal in the area, one of the biggest cases, as far as magnitude, that could really ever be was just a stone's throw away. And if it wasn't for somebody that came forward to me with this massive stack of police reports and information, I would never have known about that. And it always kind of makes me wonder how many other cases are out there like that, that just remarkable, extraordinary things happen, but it was subdued for one reason or another. And it wasn't a book and it wasn't a blockbuster film, but at the same time, maybe it was more epic than any of those.
I have to agree with you 100%, Steve, because there is nothing better that makes my blood just rush is that day when you just talk to somebody and all of a sudden they say, oh, by the way, this, and this happened, and they start winding this unbelievable tale. And all of a sudden it's like an hour later and you're like, oh my God. And the next day, what do? You're searching the internet. You're looking in police reports. You're calling every contact that you possibly can get to get more information on it. And I think that's what keeps guys like you and I young, because let's face it, you're what, 22,
Yeah. Give or take a couple years.
And by the way, thank you for that. You and Jamie gave me the best compliment in the world. Gee, you don't look your age. I was like,
not even close.
Wow. I was like, this is great. This guy is either the greatest smoother in the world or he's got to get glasses. I'm not sure, but it was good. But yeah, to be able to go and find that little tiny droplet of information and to follow it through, that is the mark of a true investigator. And I always tell people, go back and look in the newspapers, go back and check stuff out. There are places all over the country that you don't have to pay to go to. You don't have to go, and all you have to do is just go and do a little bit of an internet search and see what you can come up with, because there's so much out there. And guys like you and I, we feel that pull. And I think that's why I automatically, instantaneously liked you. I thought that I thought you were the real deal right off the bat. Now, I'm not going to keep you like all night, because I could, but then you would go and like never talk to me again. So, because I'll save like more questions for another night. So I want to talk to you about, listen, okay. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls and children of all ages, Steve Shippy, rapper extraordinaire. Seriously. Paranormal investigator. He conquered it. He's got it. He knows what's going on. He's got the technique. He's got everything going on. The guy is a filmmaker. Makes beautiful films. Beautiful. Just beautiful. Do you think that's enough for this guy? Absolutely not. You want to know why? He's got a line of candles that we can talk about, and his fragrance. He has a personal fragrance. Dude, seriously, do you like sleep like an hour a night? I got to ask you, because you're editing, you're traveling, you're filming, and you're coming up with all this stuff. Again, you're Nietzschean Uberman. You really are. You're Nietzschean Uberman. Talk about your candles. Because I just showed him my Shango candle that I burn to keep trolls away, and we burn candles constantly here.
Yeah, I'm a candle junkie. I always have been for many years. In fact, to the point where like every birthday or Christmas, that's all anybody would get me. Two things, either anything owl related or a candle. And so I would just amass these ridiculous amounts of candles, and I would be burning them all the time. I've got several burning here when I'm editing or when I'm working, writing, anything I'm doing, they're always burning. And so at one point I kind of thought, well, I can't not do this. This is fragrance sense to me is it's a passion of mine. For whatever reason, it always has been, and I wanted to kind of create unique scents to me that kind of embody the profiles that I like. And so I just started doing it, and it met a good amount of success, and launched another and another, and I don't even know how many. I think maybe around 10 or 12 maybe at this point, different candles. And of course we make sure that it's really high quality soy blend, and I think they're great. I wouldn't put it out otherwise. I really stand behind it. And then the fragrance, I'm a very avid collector of fragrances, unique ones, niche fragrances, so to speak. So I had to do that as well. In fact, I've got 2 fragrances out. One of them I'd like to send you, especially for the Black Cat Lounge. How perfect would this be?
Oh my God, that's perfect.
Right.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much.
For sure. It's Superstition number 13, and it's inspired to me by the paranormal. So there's many different scents in here that remind me of what we do, from frankincense, incense. I could go on forever. So don't open that door, because you'll just eventually click that button and get rid of me. But
Never.
To me, scent is one of the few senses we have. It's a very important one. So it just, it's a hobby that has kind of gone a little bit past a hobby.
I've found that so many people have done that, where they actually go out and they work with it. Lloyd Orbach is a chocolatier. I mean, this is a guy that studied magic and that studied the paranormal, and is an investigator out there and a lecturer, and he makes some of the greatest chocolates in the world. So I think that's all part of our creative processes. I think a lot of it is the fact that, we have to be able to go and step away from what our main interests are.
Yep.
And then come back to it after we do something else as creative as that.
Yep.
Because this way we come back. It's like having that, coming back with such a clear mind.
Yeah, it's like refilling the well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Even if that other endeavor that you do, you might work as hard or even harder on it. And then most people are thinking, man, aren't you kind of burning the candle at both ends? And it's like, no, some people like us are just wired that way. We have to get out that energy, and so maybe it's through a hobby or through something that you really love doing. And then once you kind of feel fulfilled in that way, you can go back into your everyday grind 10 times harder.
Exactly. It's also guys like us. I call it the Sherlock Holmes effect. Guys like us are not happy, are not content when we don't have a project sitting in front of us.
100% true.
I'm the same way. You can ask my poor wife, Nancy. I am like one of the most miserable SOBs when I am done with like my, all my appearances and different little events. And I have that like lull where I'm not doing anything. I have to do something. I have to, work with ITC. I have to work with, putting boxes together. I have to go and, I'm out like wandering cemeteries. I'm out like, trying to, work on different, revamping lesson plans or writing that next book. I think it's just the way we are built. And I think there's a lot of us out there, but a lot of people are afraid to open up.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
The other thing is people, and you can agree or disagree, but I think a lot of people are so beaten down by that that 9 to 5 type deal.
Yeah.
And they identify themselves as I am this, what you do for a living, rather than I'm here 8 hours, but what am I going to do for the rest of the time?
Right.
Where, you've taken your passion and made it, overwhelming. It's what you are, who you are now. I've taken my passion I retired, and that's now who I am. I'm out there doing, just, being as free and wandering as much as I can. So I think a lot of it is a mindset. And, and I gotta be honest with you. I think a lot of people should look at someone like yourself as an inspiration, because I do. I mean, again, I'm not a suck up. I don't really, if I thought you sucked, I'd probably have told you on the ship, but
I think you would have.
But I mean, I find a person like you very inspiring, because that passion just, when you meet you, it's just like overflows, and it's what I think so many people in this life are missing. And if we could if we could bottle you, first of all, we get a lot of money for it, but second of all, if we could bottle you, that inspiration, I think a lot of people would really benefit from it. So I really hope that people really have taken the time to listen to what you do and everything that you're up to. Now, here's the golden question before we go on any further. What's next in the wonderful world of Steve Shippy? What's next? I'm afraid to find out. You don't have to like I know you have something always going, but
right.
You can just put a general little teaser for everybody.
For sure. Well, I've got I'm going to be reopening a case. I can't really say too much, but I'm going to be reopening one of the most infamous cases I've ever investigated, with a lot of amazing new evidence that took a long time to track down, that I thought did not exist, and was able to get all of that information and substance to be able to apply it to go back in. So I'm extremely excited about that. I'll be traveling in the South in a couple months to work on another pretty large scale investigation. Awesome. And getting ready shortly to start editing the Edson project, which, my God, I mean, I can't even tell you how many terabytes worth of footage I have to go through. And
I don't know how you're going to do it.
But I'm super excited about that. So that's coming up too. And then I have a Patreon channel, I guess, for, like, I don't know if you call it a channel, but I have a Patreon account, and I'm constantly putting out full episodes on there. So that's always, I'm always working on that. Got another fragrance coming out, some more candles coming out. And but just to kind of backtrack for 1 second, though, I completely agree with your philosophy on, I wish more people out there would realize what they're capable of doing, and on my Patreon channel, I talk a lot about that. Basically, I mean, we know that there's always certain circumstances, you can't always, but at the same time, it is, when I believe that when people kind of put the blinders on, and if you focus on something that you want so much, even if you don't achieve exactly what it is, you will now be, if you're looking up at the stars, if you can get up in the sky,
yes,
first of all, that's a great place to be. Many different things I've done in my life. I went through a door hoping to get to a certain place, and ended up getting into another door and through another door. And it's just about applying yourself, and I know that sounds kind of generic, but at the end of the day, if you want something bad enough and you put all your energy and focus onto it, it's amazing what a person can achieve. And like you said, if you can break that 8 to 5, 9 to 5 mentality, that doesn't define any of us. It's just what we're doing at that time. It's just a part of our life. It's part of our story. How do you want to write the rest of it?
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. And here's the thing. A lot of people are going, oh, well, Steve can do this because, or Tim can do this because. It doesn't matter if, like when you get home, you don't neglect your family. But, there's always some time left over in the day where you can go and you can do your research, you can write, you can be creative, whether or not it's for 10 minutes or a couple hours.
Yeah.
But you can always find that time, even though you might be tired, but it's a discipline. It's just a discipline. So you discipline yourself to do it. And it's a little bit of focus, and everybody will be surprised what you can accomplish in a month's time. It's crazy. My goal when I write is I was one of those guys that used to try to do a page a day.
Yeah.
And let's face it, I mean, that burns you out.
Yeah.
I mean, some days I could do a chapter, some days I could do, nothing. But if I write and I try to do, let's say, a paragraph a day, well, by the time you're done with a week, that's 7 paragraphs. That's what you need to do. Everybody has to keep it in perspective, but you keep working on and you keep pushing yourself on and on and on. Steve, I want to thank you. I'm not going to keep you any longer because I know you're busy, but I just want to ask you to stay on the, I was going to say stay on the line. I was a radio guy for way too long, and just stay on so I can thank you properly.
Yeah.
Off the air. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming in and jumping in at the last minute. And this is going to be one of my, I'll just come right out and say, this is going to be one of my banner shows, because I respect you. I really do. And it's so wonderful to hear your philosophy and to see someone progress the way you have and just keep on going and not slow down. That is phenomenal. Oh, and one last thing. I forgot. We can't let you go without saying, how can everybody that's online know more about the wonderful world of Steve Shippy? How can they get a hold of you? Where can they look at? You talked about all your little channels and everything. How can they do that? How can they stay in contact with you?
Well, contact, of course, social media, Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff. I do have a Patreon account with a lot of exclusive content that can't be seen anywhere else. Previous films, Amazon Prime, and of course, Discovery Plus. I have a lot of things on there and a lot more things that will be coming on there.
Perfect. I just want to make sure that my job is complete. My job, like I told you before, my job is to sell you because you're my hero. Okay. Hang on a couple seconds, Steve, and I'll be right with you. Okay, guys? Thank you again so much from the bottom of my heart.
I'll be back anytime. Thank you.
You're my hero. I'm telling you, you're my hero. I'd say you're Bill Randall's hero, but then you'd have to pay him $3. We'll talk about that off the air.
That's true.
Thank you so much. Hey, everybody. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for being a part of the Black Cat Lounge. Isn't Steve great? Steve is one of those guys that I really admire. And as you can tell, I mean, I'm a little bit of a fanboy. I won't lie. Nothing wrong with that. But to work with him, he was probably one of the best people I've ever worked with. And I would work with him in a heartbeat, because he is just one of those great people. And I love his philosophy, and I love the fact that he is out there and he continues to work. So guys, be good. We'll see you next Tuesday. Everybody, you guys know that I don't go and I don't preach about anything like health and that, but stay healthy. Okay, stay healthy. This is Tim Shaw. You've been listening to What Else? The Black Cat Lounge here, next to the dumpster transfer station. Ciao, babies. Take care, my friends. Be good. Bye-bye.